Hello, this is an assessment of an upright piano which has been brought into our storage because it was in a flood about 2 to 3 inches deep apparently. It doesn't seem to have damaged the case too much. If we look down here, obviously you could see veneer peeling and so on if it had damaged it a lot, but possibly just caught the case a little bit, so a little bit of cosmetic damage. The main thing is to let it dry out now for a while and see if there's any lasting damage, because water obviously is a great enemy of wood and pianos, and that handle on the back and also the style of the piano made me think it was a good instrument. So down the other side too is not terribly damaged. It certainly could be improved. Our polisher could improve the whole thing while it was here. So it's here for assessment while it's obviously going to be in store for a month at least, just to see how much it dries out. It's got Hicks written on the piano, but I think it's a high quality piano. So we had a look at it, and we did manage to discover who we think's made the piano. So these keys, by the way, there's slight chips in them and they're quite yellowed. So while it was here, we could try and repair those. Those have been sort of sanded down to more or less flat. So it's going to be difficult to know what to repair here. Those could obviously be improved, or we could change all the key tops, but they're quite good apart from that. The piano's obviously been refinished. I wouldn't have thought there's water damage here. There's a few anomalies, like for instance this should fold inside, but it's got some screws here which stop us from folding it in, so not sure why those are put on. So it's obviously been modified, repolished, and generally didn't realise what the make of the piano was. Now when we played the piano, I was surprised how beautiful a tone it has. And an excellent break point. So well-made instrument. And the fruitiness of the bass made me think it might be a German piano, but generally speaking that sounds like a beautiful German round sound. Of course there are British pianos that sound good like that. There's a string missing here, by the way. You can see that should be a bichord there. You can see the pin there. But it sounds, because it's the last one and matches into the single bass strings. So there's the bichord missing then. And then some strings have been replaced at the top as well in the past. It needs pitch raising by about 3 or 4 beats. I don't think there'll be a problem with breaking other strings. If we lubricate here and then take them down and back up again, then we shouldn't get broken strings, but there's always a chance of that when you see broken strings before. Now I did wonder if it was German, but then straight away could see there was English written on here, so immediately I felt a bit of a fool saying it might have been German. And here we have English written as well, so in 1930, and there's an older date here. I think the oldest date we got here, 1885. There we are, 1885, London. So very interesting. And investigating a bit further, saw the word Cremona down here. Now I had a vague recollection that the word Cremona was seen on Squire Longson pianos. So when we did a search, and in fact indeed did find an image of a piano, Squire Longson, that's almost identical to this piano. So pretty confident that it's a Squire Longson, that it's not written on it anywhere. Tapes have been replaced. Regulation's not bad. There's no slack here, which you often get if piano is not regulated, and the tapes have been replaced, so that means that the action has been taken apart, it's been graphited here, and so on. So generally has been worked on, and the hammers don't seem to be too loose. You look for that too, so they're quite tight. They're a bit lacking in spacing there, but they are working well. The main problem with the hammers is that we've got you can see quite strong indentations, and they've been refaced once already, I'm pretty certain. So they'll need refacing or replacing. If you reface them, you can hear that very weak sound. Refacing them will bring the tone back on these. So I've refaced this hammer, and it's definitely clearer than the one next to it now. Replacing the hammers would be ideal to give it more, make it sound as good as a new piano, if not better. But obviously the piano isn't that valuable due to cosmetics and needing really repolishing. But value may not be important if you're a musician. You just want a good quality piano. So it's a question of, do you reface or replace? We would replace is the best option, but refacing is an option to just give it a bit more life. The damping could also be improved in the tenor. You hear that one particularly. Just reshaping the damper, it's usually one string that is not damping properly, so you can just make it go further in on that one and then it will damp better. Replacing the dampers is a better solution, but again that will cost more obviously. It's mainly the bichord dampers, and that one because it's got one string instead of two, and then the single strings are not bad at all really, and the springs are fine. So the piano's in our storage because it's been in a flood, and we'll leave it here for a while before we can be absolutely certain if the flood's affected it at all. It doesn't seem to be too much, but obviously moisture, if piano's standing in moisture for a long time, then it could indeed damage it, could loosen the tuning pins. They're extremely tight tuning pins, very well made piano, and pretty certain we are that it's a Squire Longson. If you have a look on the internet, you'll see a very similar style of piano if you look at the images, and certainly a high quality piano. So they're a very respected firm. The touch is generally a little on the high side, and certainly lubricating the balance rail will bring that down, and probably then we won't have to do much work to just even it out. If you want to check whether your piano needs the balance rail lubricating, you can lift up the keys. By the way, don't try and lift up the ivories, they'll come off, but lift them up like this, and if they don't fall down, then lubrication of the balance rail is going to solve that problem and reduce the touch, and also make it smoother, and generally it's the first thing we tend to do when we're working on pianos. So you can see that many of them hold up, and in fact when you have the piano apart, I could have shown you earlier, sorry, you can see that they're really stiff actually, and the sharps as well, so that will improve the touch greatly. Just put them back down again, and improve your touch greatly. Older pianos can feel just as good as a new piano, so don't think that you've got an older piano that it's better to change it for a new one. If it's a Squire Longson, then definitely worth restoring, definitely worth keeping. So I hope that's been helpful. I'm just going to play the piano and perhaps a few more comments too. So that's a Squire Longson upright piano, made in, we think, probably about 1930. It's got 1930 as one of the dates inside, but difficult to be sure. No serial number on it. Not the one that we could relate to Squire Longson anyway, but pretty sure that that's the make. That's a beautiful tone to it. Really impressed with the tone. Now with the hammers reface, especially where it's weaker here, I've refaced that one, and it's a little bit better. Really, replacing them will be the ideal solution. They're a little bit soft. And such a rich bass. It's been standing in water for a time, so it could have got damaged in other ways. We'll need to keep it to dry out for a while before we're sure. Slightly flat of concert pitch. I don't think we're going to break any strings if we pitch raise it. Shouldn't do, although there are one or two broken in the past, but it maybe one might break. Normally you don't have to replace the string if it breaks. You can just wind it down, wind it around the pin and back up again on this style of piano. So I hope that's been helpful. Thank you very much for listening. If you do get a piano in a flood, then get it out as soon as possible, obviously. Recently we had a real deluge in the Oxford area, and many houses got flooded, and not too many pianos fortunately, but there was one or two, and I think a couple of others as well. So obviously that's something we can't really do much about if you live near water and are subject to floods, but do get the piano out as soon as you possibly can. Thank you very much for listening. If you want a piano assessed, then please do write to info@robertspianos.com.